I've gotten the word that we need some hope injected here. So give us some good news here, reasons to hope. What's working or what's getting better in your perspectives? And what advice do you have for the folks here in the audience today about what they can do to help now, over the next month, lifetime, whatever? So, reasons to hope. Okay, Jeff?
I'm often asked, well, if you look at deforestation in the Amazon, is the glass half full or is it half empty? Well, think about it. Any glass that's half full is half empty, by definition, right? So deforestation is going on faster than it ever has. However, we've been working with 32 tribes to map, manage, and protect 75 million acres of rainforest. That's done. That's real. That's extant. And every time we do one of these projects, literally every tribe to the north, east, south, and west wants to use U.S. technology and know-how combined with indigenous wisdom to do that. So it's very, very easy to look at the nuclear situation, to look at the marine situation, to look at the tropical situation, to look at the climate change situation and get depressed. But you know what? These problems are all caused by people. They can be solved by people. Now, I don't want to be Pollyannish about this. I think we're on a slippery, steep slope on climate change, and it's going to get a lot worse. But nothing is worse than doing nothing because you can't do everything. And so you do have to give people reasons for hope, and there are reasons for hope, but it has to be clear-eyed with the glass half full and half empty. Because if we don't get cracking, we are screwed.
I'll jump. Yeah.
All right. Yes, sir.
I think one reason for hope is that large multinational corporations are seeing that they can make a lot of money by being green. One in the renewable energy field, you know, solar, wind development all over the world. China, unfortunately, is about to clean our clock in some of these technologies because they're investing so heavily in them. But other multinational large corporations, by cutting their own energy use, are realizing how much money they're saving. So we have 4 corporations on the corporate council at our center: J.P. Morgan Chase, 3M, Johnson & Johnson, and Wells Fargo. A couple more about to come on board. 3M has cut its energy use 65% in the last 10 years. And they have saved a huge amount of money by doing this and are starting to talk about it to other corporations. So there's a lot of, there are big bucks involved in being greener, and that's a big, important development, it seems to me.
And what they provide us by going greener is a set of alternatives that we didn't have before. In the 70s, when the environmental movement was largely defined, there was no alternative to using bleach or toxic cleaners. There was no real way to recycle or dispose of oil and paint thinner and batteries and pharmaceutical drugs. Increasingly, we are harnessing not only the innovation that we're capable of, but all of the opportunities that exist in the internet age to get people the information they need about the issues they need it at a time and in a way that they can use. And you know, a great example of this is earth911.com, which is a website where you can go put in your zip code and you get a whole list of where you can go recycle what you need to recycle and how, anywhere in the country. Having those kinds of tools and those kinds of alternatives, being able to buy biodegradable products or hybrid vehicles, even if they are imperfect, they represent a direction that we have taken that I think will continue. And when we talk about a lot of the problems that we have now in the environment, too often it becomes a political issue, a green versus, a blue versus red issue, an economic issue, an impossible issue, where what it should represent, whether it's climate change, deforestation, water pollution, biodiversity loss, whatever it is, it should represent to us an opportunity to innovate, to think critically, to collaborate, to come together, to take action, to find solutions, and to, even if it's all a hoax, to make our society better. And I believe that these are all very real issues, obviously, but even for those who doubt, the upside is such a great upside that there's really no excuse for not taking action immediately on all of them. Because the United States no longer is a world leader in patents. We no longer have the most patents of any country in the world. We used to. We don't anymore. All of this is an opportunity to go back to that place where we lead the world in innovation, which is what I think everybody can agree on.
Indeed.
I have another positive thing.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, I've always, many people have felt that it's as important to teach young children in early school education about their relationship to the natural world and to the living world, in some ways as it is to teach them how to read and write and think critically. And that is happening in many parts of our public educational system. For example, Alice Waters, many of you may know about her, started this edible schoolyard program. There are now edible schoolyards where kids are growing their own vegetables for their own cafeterias in some 1,000 grammar schools around the country. Probably, I'm a farmer, but probably one of the best ways for them to understand that relationship to the natural world. And when you think about one of the most important changes that occurred in terms of behavior, self-destructive public health behavior in this country, it's the huge numbers of people that gave up smoking. And part of that, I mean, the Harvard School of Public Health did a lot of work in this, but part of that came from children. Children learning in schools that this was a very bad idea for their parents and for them with secondhand smoke, and coming home and saying, you know, this is really stupid. And there's some data about how many adults gave up smoking because of their kids. So if kids are coming back into their home and saying, why are you driving that SUV? Why are you leaving the lights on in the room? We're not in that other room. Why aren't you replacing compact fluorescents? Why aren't you shopping at your local farm, et cetera, et cetera? I think it could have a really major impact, and I think that's a really exciting development that our center, through Meg Thompson, is promoting with high school curricula about environmental change around the country.
I'll add something to the hope equation. As distressed as I am with the behavior of some corporations, first of all, Eric, you're absolutely right. Business is driving a huge wedge of change on a really large scale, and in fact, is being, I think, more effective than government certainly is at this point. But I think there's something else that's even more exciting about what's happening. For us to evolve as a species and survive this threat that we've brought on ourselves, and we've defined the threat in several different ways, whether it's on the forest or in the ocean or in the atmosphere. For us to survive, we need to reorder how we relate to each other. And one of the most amazing things about this is the old way that we've done things, that this part of the world, what we call the West or the North, that used to dictate to the rest of the world economically, really doesn't have too many cards. Let's just look at forests for a moment. What Mark says is that, you know, deforestation, really just from the tropical zone, is anywhere from, say, 1/5 to 1/3 of the present emissions of carbon right now. So that's more than driving cars. It's more than transportation. And by the way, eating meat is on the same scale as transportation for forcing climate change. Now, the thing that's really wonderful about protecting the forests is that we don't have to develop any new technology to do this. We don't have to come up with a catalytic forest converter in order to save what we've got. And what that means is the best near-term hope for turning around the climate threat, the biological diversity threat, the human habitat threat, is, in fact, addressing the forest. That's the thing we could do the quickest. The trouble is, the West is still trying to play this game of, look, these forests will save our collective bottoms, but we're going to give you pennies on that. We're going to say, look, lock up your forest. You would make $100 million from this forest. We'll give you $100 million. Well, I got news for you. How many folks here own a house or an apartment or a dwelling unit? Okay? Now think for a moment about the market price of that house. Market price, what you think your house is worth. Would you sell it for that right now today? No, nobody wants to move. Would you sell it for twice what you think the market's worth? Maybe. At what point would you sell? Maybe you probably 3, 4, 5, maybe 10 times what the market value is. Yeah, I'll move. You know, this little box here in Central Square that overpriced at $300,000, give me $3 million, I'll move. But until you get to that point, so why do we think that the folks in the forest are going to take the same that they would get from their other economic activity when in fact they hold the keys to the kingdom of all of civilization? Because I don't think it's overstating the case that if we let the forest go, we have lost what margin of opportunity we have to turn around the climate question. So one sign of wonderful hope about all this for me is that this forces us to really look hard at the equity question. Dr. Plotkin has talked about, you know, there's more wisdom in what the indigenistas have. But frankly, we have been cheating the, quote, less developed world for centuries, since the advent of colonialism. And now it is time for us to make things right. Now just come at home. So what do we need to do to have a renaissance in America? Well, we have to change the energy systems and the food systems. And where do we have to do this? In the places that we have really most neglected. It's far more efficient to live in conurbations in cities, but that means you have to have a livable city. It means that you can't have neglected, horrible places. So in order for us to solve this problem, we have to get more equitable with each other. And it's not just equity, it's also this spiritual connection. Because this is too damn hard to do without loving each other. It's too hard to do without loving each other. Because there are short-term sacrifices here. So that's why I'm hopeful, because this means that we're going to get together, we're going to have equity, we're going to love each other. This is just going to be wonderful. You know? It's terrific.